Welcome to Gardening with the Gardeners, a podcast where we discuss our favorite plants, gardens, landscape design, and all things horticulture, with a touch of our crazy homestead lifestyle thrown in.
I'm one of your hosts, Matthew Boone Gardner, a horticulturalist, landscape designer, and fourth-generation owner-operator of Boone Gardner Landscape.
And I'm Hope Gardner, Matt's wife, a horticulturalist with our local county extension office, as well as a landscape designer with a family business. And together we make up Gardening with the Gardeners.
Okay, we're back after a brief hiatus.
Yes, because it was Thanksgiving last week, so we spent family time.
So hold on, this is episode 8.
Yes, it is.
So we're
Episode number 8.
Episode number 8.
I can't believe we've done this many.
I know.
It's kind of fun.
It is fun. So, yes, we were off for Thanksgiving,
Uh-huh.
the holiday, busy with all that.
Yes.
Kids home, all good things.
It was so nice to have the kids home.
Yes.
So now that our oldest is back at college and we're trying to get back into the routine.
Then the snow came.
Yes. We had lots of snow. We had about, 4.5 inches last night?
Yeah, I think
It was cold.
When I was out there feeding today, it looked like 5 inches. Then kind of changed immediately. We were kind of still in fall mode of getting things ready and kind of winter ready and prepared. And now all of a sudden we're in winter. It's like, oh.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of notice that the storm was coming. So we kind of knew what, we had to do some things around the farm to get everything kind of battened down.
Kind of put the plastic around the rabbit hutch cage
To keep
area.
them warm. We finally gave the goats and the chickens all the pumpkins that we had decorating. So now that Thanksgiving is behind us, we can move on.
Tell everybody why that's a trick that you taught me. That's great to give the old pumpkins to our goats because.
Yes, well, it's a natural dewormer. So we give them to both the goats. A lot of times, primarily the goats, but we'll give some to the chickens also as a natural dewormer because we want to stay on top of that.
And they like them a lot too.
They love them. Yes.
Plus, it's kind of funny because then the next year we might have a random pumpkin patch grow up in the goat field. Sometimes that happens.
We do, and
Although
it
they
is
usually
fun.
eat it though.
It doesn't last long. No, I don't even think it ever gets to bloom because they'll munch anything.
Mm-hmm. So it made it interesting this morning with the snow. It's spectacular, beautiful to walk through, but it does give some challenges to all your normal farm chores. But it was really funny because this is we're talking about the young chickens that are now full hens. This is our 4th, 5th, 6th batch of chickens that we've gone through.
15th year.
Whatever. But as far as how many generations we've had.
Oh, yeah.
So I opened the coop door to check on them and check the feed and all that. And then they were all huddled in there, even though their little door was open. They were all sitting inside the coop. And I'm like, and it's been interesting because all our chickens in the past have not been afraid of the snow. But I've just realized these little guys haven't seen snow.
They've never experienced snow before.
And they're probably like, what in the heck is this? So
they didn't like it.
I kind of had to admit, maybe it's a little baptism by fire, but I was like, I'd shoot them all out. I was kind of chasing them out the door to get them to go out because I want them to not be stuck in there all day and get out.
Oh, no.
And so they
needed some fresh air.
They finally got out and they're kind of like, okay, walking around trying to figure it out. But it was quite funny to say the least.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. So now we're looking down the barrel of Christmas. We're in the first week of Advent. We have snow on the ground.
It really did kind of feel like the holidays today.
Yeah, it's kind of a major transition from preparing for winter to here we are.
Yes. So it's time. Let's start celebrating Christmas. And the best way to do that for us, the Christmas plants.
Yeah, what Christmas plant more important to start with than the Christmas tree?
It is. Well, that's the one that we always associate, that and poinsettias. But we'll do poinsettias next week. So, yeah. How about the history?
So the history of the Christmas tree, or maybe we should talk about the roots of the Christmas tree.
Yes.
It's really an ancient tradition, and it dates back, as most people know, it goes back to pagan roots, ancient beginnings well before Christmas even existed. Long before Christianity, people noticed that evergreen plants stayed alive during the darkest, coldest months of the year, like right now. These plants became symbols of hope. Not you, but protection and the promise that life would return after winter.
So with many of these ancient cultures, they hung evergreen branches over the doors and windows to ward off evil spirits and sickness during these really dark winter periods.
The winter solstice, which typically occurs on December 21st or 22nd or right around there, marked the shortest day of the year and held powerful meaning. Ancient people believed the sun was a god, growing weak in the winter and then recovering after the solstice.
An evergreen would remind them that with green plants, so would return the strength of the sun, and it would, renew the summer months.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Things were still alive.
So evergreens in ancient civilizations, they started with not just obviously Christmas trees like we know them, but in ancient Egypt, people honored the sun god Ra during the solstice. So they would fill their homes with these, palm leaves and papyrus, different kind of evergreen type plants in their climates to represent life overcoming death. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia, and it was obviously a festival for Saturn, decorating homes and temples with greenery.
And then in Northern Europe, like in the Celts, which I kind of like those, their priests were known as Druids, and they used evergreens in religious spaces just to be a sign of eternal life.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the Vikings in Scandinavia, that's easy for you to say, they use mistletoe because it's an evergreen, and because of that connection that they had with one of their gods named Balder.
Mm-hmm. And we have more on mistletoe to come too, probably maybe with poinsettias or
yes,
soon
we're going to do
coming up.
poinsettias with mistletoe, and I'm going to go into a little bit more in depth with that god that they had, Balder.
Yeah, we thought we were going to literally do a show that kind of did Christmas trees, poinsettias, and then all these different like Christmas cactus, all these different things all at once. And then we started doing our research and we're like, wow, we have a lot of content to cover. So maybe we'll just do one on just Christmas trees, and this may have some in poinsettias too. We'll see how long
Yeah,
this
we did a
goes.
deep dive, and it got really, really deep. So we decided we've got to kind of separate those out. So
Because the history's cool.
it is cool,
So
and there's so much more.
Yeah, continuing with that history, and Germany was kind of really the birth of the modern Christmas tree.
That's what we first, everybody thinks
The
of.
Germanic, yeah.
Yes.
And so by the 1500s in Germany, families began bringing decorated trees into their homes for Christmas. When full trees weren't available, some people built wooden Christmas pyramids and decorated with greenery and candles. A famous legend credits Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, obviously, but Martin Luther, the 16th century Protestant Reformation and creator of the Lutheran Church, with being the first to add candles to a Christmas tree. According to the story, he was inspired by the stars shining through the evergreen branches, probably a night walking home with snow-covered boughs and things, and wanted to recreate that moment indoors.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it is. So then Christmas trees arrived in America, and early Americans didn't immediately embrace the Christmas tree. The first recorded tree displays appeared in Pennsylvania in the 1820s among the German immigrant communities. Even earlier in 1747, Moravian Germans displayed a wooden community tree decorated with candles. Many Americans at the time viewed Christmas trees as pagan and inappropriate. The Puritan leaders, kind of taking the fun out of things sometimes, including William Bradford, actively worked to suppress Christmas celebrations. And in 1659, Massachusetts even fined people for decorating on December 25th.
How terrible is that?
I know, it's pretty strict. And that strict opposition faded in the 1800s as German and Irish immigration increased, kind of bringing the fun of German and the Irish culture with them.
Yeah, those Germans and Irish are going to be fun.
Yes.
Okay, so everything kind of changed, though, in 1846 when Queen Victoria, and her husband Prince Albert, because he had some Germanic background, they were portrayed standing in front of a Christmas tree with their kids.
Yeah, for like a popular magazine picture, I believe.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that was such a hit that it really did.
It went viral for the time.
For the time it did, yes.
19th century.
And so that trend spread through a lot of Britain and then the eastern United States. So by 1890, ornaments started being imported from Germany, to decorate the Christmas trees. So Europeans typically use really small trees, but Americans, of course, were kind of, over the top. We preferred those great big floor to ceilings. So like the Europeans, I think those were like 4 feet. And then, we obviously want those big 12-foot trees. So
Everything's bigger in Texas, but really everything's bigger in America,
everything's
right?
big, yeah. So early Americans used to make their own ornaments by hand, but then those German American families, they would actually use more of the natural materials like apples and nuts. They would even do some marzipan cookies. Popcorn, of course, we still use some of that, but that was used. They would dye it bright colors and then string it up with berries. So they would all, use different kind of things to decorate their trees. So then the invention of electric Christmas lights changed everything, and so then they went from candles that could obviously, cause fires, but they went to those electric lights, so it was a lot safer during long periods. So you wouldn't just light the candles on the Christmas tree like
I
at
always
night.
wonder about that because even when we watch old like Rick Steves Europe episodes, and they'll sometimes show traditional cultures like in Europe still using candles, and it's beautiful. But I mean, a Christmas tree is like a resin bomb getting ready to go off. I mean, I cannot imagine how many fires probably were started.
Well, but
with
think
that.
about it. They were freshly cut. They didn't have their Christmas trees in the house for
Well,
like weeks on end.
still.
They would bring it in. Usually they would bring it in like Christmas Eve, decorate it Christmas Eve evening after the kids went to bed. So when the kids came down, there was this big tree that was decorated and had all these lights on it. So it was really kind of cool.
So then we jump ahead to America and the Rockefeller Center tree tradition.
Talking about bigger is better in America.
That is big. It's kind of interesting. Before I go into that tradition, I remember, Dad, even in Louisville, we have the big light up Louisville tradition downtown Louisville.
Yeah.
And they do their own kind of like Rockefeller trees, not as big. But there were a couple of years where Dad contributed that tree from a client's yard, and they had to move it on a lowboy tractor trailer with cranes, and it was a massive endeavor. It's cool. I've got old newspaper articles showing them move this tree, blocking both lanes down US 60 and 64, going down to downtown Louisville. It was really cool.
That is neat.
So, one of the most famous trees in the world now stands at Rockefeller Center, and the very first tree appeared there in 1931 during the Great Depression, put up by construction workers. It was simple and undecorated, but meaningful. By 1933, lights were added and the tradition was born. Today's tree shines with over 50,000 lights. We've all seen it on TV. It's incredible. The tallest one ever displayed arrived in 1999. That was a 100-foot Norway spruce from Connecticut.
Wow.
That is massive. On a recent trip to New York, we got to see them getting ready for all that.
Yes, it is a big, big deal.
It is a big deal.
Yes. So what about trees from all around the world?
Yeah, this is kind of fun, just all the different traditions.
So because there were a lot of German settlers in the Canadian area, Christmas trees were introduced in Canada as early as the early 1700s. And there is where the later tradition included the Advent calendars and gingerbread houses.
In Mexico, most homes center holiday decor around the nativity scenes, also known as nacimiento. I'm probably massacring that. My Spanish is not that good. But nacimiento is a nativity scene. Very important. And so they would decorate those scenes. Trees are often artificial or made from native branches because real pine trees are expensive in that area. And so they would be kind of a smaller, it was kind of a luxury commodity to most Mexican families. The typical arbolito or little tree is what was often seen as an artificial one or small one. And then they often would do a bare branch from a copal tree, which is Bursera microphylla, for those who want to know.
Oh, wow. So then back to Great Britain, it was actually the Norway spruce that was the traditional Christmas tree.
Still the king of all.
It is, but it actually existed in Britain before the Ice Age. And so it was then later reintroduced, and
Isn't that
that's why it
amazing?
became so popular. Yeah.
And then in Greenland, because Greenland lacks large forest, most trees are imported. They traditionally decorate with candles and colorful ornaments, very similar to everybody else. Guatemala, back to Latin America, Christmas trees gained popularity alongside nativity scenes. Again, because like a lot of places in South America, there's a large German population, and that was in the influence of that area.
So kind of in that South America, in Brazil. So in Brazil, Christmas actually falls during the summer because it's, of course, south of us. So they decorate pine trees with cotton to imitate snow. And then in Ireland,
One of your favorite places.
I know we're going to get back there soon. So trees are decorated with lights and tinsels and ornaments, but a lot of the homes will feature wreaths and mistletoe and holly and ivy. So they do a lot more greenery.
Sounds like home.
Yay.
In Sweden, families buy trees early but decorate them just days before Christmas Eve. It's kind of like what you were alluding to. They have to keep them outside and then finally bring them in. Straw ornaments shaped like stars and animals are common. And then finally, in Norway, many families still head into the forest to pick their own tree. Decorating often happens on December 23rd, called Little Christmas Eve. I think this is what we saw in that Rick Steve special. It was really neat. They
Yes.
march out in the snow and go get it. Tradition ritual includes holding hands and circling a tree while singing carols.
Aw.
Yeah.
So, what about if people want to have Christmas trees in their house? So, obviously, I mean, it's gotten to be very, very popular for people to do artificial trees because they do last longer. You can set them up a lot earlier. But if you want that more traditional, wonderful smell of Christmas in the house, so obviously there's two basic ways of doing it. You can go get a cut tree, or you can do a live tree.
Yes.
So, with cut trees, obviously, you've got to be very careful when you're picking those out. You want to try out to find a fresh one that.
There's some nice tips you can do for help, like for selecting one.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one is just bend the needles between your thumb and forefingers and see if it bends.
You want some pliable.
Yes.
You want it to be pliable, so it's not like if it.
You don't want it to snap.
Or if you touch them and then all the needles immediately fall off, you're.
Well, and what you want to do is maybe tap, not hit hard, but tap the trunk of that tree on the ground a couple times. Now, if some of the brown needles in the center fall out, that's
Sure.
natural. That's
But if
not to
green
be
needles
world.
start falling off, you're in trouble.
Right. It's all those green needles that fall that you want to make sure that that tree is not too dry. So,
If you want to be a real stickler, you can notice how the trees are stored and displayed on a lot. This gets kind of hard, but I mean, obviously, if they're in full sun or exposed to wind, all those things dry the tree out. It's hard to know where the trees came from, and a lot of these trees have been cut a long time ago.
well, that's what you want to ask the vendor.
Yeah.
Make sure you ask the vendor where they came from and how long they've been cut. Sometimes, unfortunately, those trees could be cut as early as October.
Yeah.
To be shipped in.
But the nice thing is because of the sap, when they cut them, it kind of seals off that wound and helps hold the moisture often. So that's why they're able to last so long.
But
We'll
that
get to that in a
also
second.
leads to when you get those home, you want to make sure and cut those about 1 to 2 inches from the stem to kind of open that wound back up.
Yeah, at least. And sometimes you can obviously cut more. I mean, we'd often cut more for mom's trees and things in order to get it to fit because you'd always pick out a really big one.
Of
Then we had to
course.
fit it in her living room. And so you would cut off the lower branches,
Wound
cut
is
the
healed
trunk,
up. Yeah.
and then obviously that reopens the tree to allow those conductive tissues to take up water.
Well, ideally, if you can do that a day or two before you want to put it in the house. So when you bring it home, put it in an area that is protected,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's the garage, a front porch, whatever. Make that cut and then put that trunk immediately after you've made
That's
the
what
cut.
we would do. We had
put it
great-
in some warm water.
Great luck with it. We'd cut the tree, cut off lower branches, put it in a bucket of water, and you'd be surprised that tree would take up almost literally 2 or 3 or more buckets of water before you even took it into the house. It would take all that water back up, and then we put it in the house, and then again I would start with hot water inside the house
Yes.
to really get it to take up, kind of loosen that sap, those conductive tissues and that sap up to really help it take water up.
Okay, now I'm looking through my notes from when we were kind of going through this. There was a kind of a recipe for putting just a little bit of sugar and then, and I'm thinking it was just like a cap full of bleach because that will open up those
I've never tried the
pores.
bleach, but I've heard that. I've heard sugar. We would even do Watches Grow, and we had the Watches Grow fertilizer, which actually had a little bit of sugar in this recipe.
Of course.
And so you just
I mean,
something.
everybody has tons of different. Oh, you put a Sprite in there.
Oh,
well,
yeah,
of course,
Sprite,
that's
that's
the
sugar.
citric acid and the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
1 cup of corn syrup to 3 tablespoons of liquid bleach to a gallon of water.
Okay.
So it's that solution that you want to mix up ahead of time, and then that will allow that bleach tends to thin out that sticky pith and allows that that tree to absorb that water and that sugar or that corn syrup. And it's just a little carbohydrate or food source while they're inside. But yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that that tree will absorb as much water as it can before you move it inside.
But then
it's going to last longer.
And then once you move it inside, you want to check it. Literally stick your fingers down that little reservoir and check it daily. Because
Yes.
it's amazing. I mean, especially when they first move in there, a lot of times they'll take water up really quickly and they'll drain that thing within less than 24 hours. And so you want to keep it full of water so it is able to hold that moisture. And then ideally, it's hard to do this, but you want to try to locate that tree not in an area where you're right next to the heat the heat
Heat
register.
vents,
Yeah,
yeah.
vents or fans or And it's
Don't
really
put it right next to the fireplace.
Yeah, because the dry heat or dry wind will dry the tree out, obviously.
Yeah. Well, that also brings us back, and I'm sorry, let's
We're kinda
go
jumping around, but
back
it's okay.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
When you pick your tree out, be careful when you're taking it home. Make sure that it is either, a lot of times they now put them in those netting bags or wrap them, because you don't want, if you're driving down 71 going, 80 miles an hour, you don't want all that wind to pull moisture out of those needles, because that does affect the
And
plant.
since we are out of order a little bit, but another tip I just thought of, Fred Wishy always recommended this, and I tried this a couple times. It really worked well. It works great with wreaths and any kind of other cut evergreens as well too. But you can use a product called Wilt Proof, and we've used it a lot of times. Wilt Proof is you put in a sprayer type mechanism, and you spray this onto the plant, and that actually it's an anti-desiccant, so it kind of seals those needles and those other evergreen plants, like if you're going to bring in holly or magnolia
Yes.
or whatever. And the wilt proof really kind of just does what the title makes it not wilt proof. Well, it makes it not wilt as quickly. It kind of helps hold that moisture in those cuticles of those needles and leaves.
And that's a product that you can also use outside in the winter months on those plants.
Yes.
Not just cut greens, bringing them in the
That's
house.
really what it's originally for. Yeah. And we always forget
It
to do
is.
it, but it's a great way to keep plants from drying out.
So what was your favorite cut tree?
Favorite?
What variety?
I mean, kind of the king, the Fraser fir. I mean, it's hard to beat the Fraser fir. And then we would always, at the different garden center locations, their history. I mean, I was always, obviously Christmas was an awesome time of year. And then we would get all these trees in. And as a little kid, that's really, I mean, it's fun to, obviously when you go to the tree lots and pick them out and you're walking around, but it's cool to kind of have their family own the place, and you're walking around these trees all the time at night and drinking your hot chocolate, and people are buying them. It's fun. So
It is neat.
you alluded to bald and burlap trees, or the living tree,
Yes.
which is an awesome, wonderful idea, and we used to sell quite a few of those too. It does come with some caveats, though. It comes with some, because everybody gets excited. Oh, I can, bring a tree in. We can use it for Christmas, and then we can plant out in our yard and have a wonderful memory. And yes, all that's true. I've got clients that have evergreens that they planted from when before their kids were born, when their kids were born, and these trees are 40, 50, 60 foot tall now, huge.
Oh, if you have a size yard that you can, put
Yeah.
a big evergreen, it's amazing. And it is fun to say, oh, we planted this tree this year and that tree the next year. However, there's a little bit,
It's not as easy as, because you have a short window.
very short window.
So we talked about that too. Like, you have a short window with cut trees.
It's even shorter with a bald and burlap tree.
Exactly. So really, you want no more than 1 week in the house. And it really,
Yeah.
when they say a week, they mean like 5 days ideally. But I mean, it's
Well, because you think about it, especially like with the weather that we're having right now, when it's in the 20 degrees and these plants are outside, their systems get accustomed to that weather.
well, even though it's a evergreen tree, it does go through a period of dormancy compared to living growth in the summertime or
yeah,
spring.
when it's 72 degrees
So
in the
it's
house.
got all those processes have kind of shut down and started preparing itself for that long winter slumber. Then all of a sudden we bring it into this warm, depending on how hot you keep your house, warm house. And then sometimes people put them next to fires or like we said or whatever. And so it really kind of can freak the tree out. So ideally, if you're going to do what they call a bald and burlap tree, living Christmas tree, about 1 week max is what you want to do. And then you're going to have to, it's the other part that's another thing to think about is that they're heavy. It takes a lot of work.
Yes, they are.
And so you have to be careful about you don't hurt yourself, hurt your family members. Have a plan for how you're going to get this tree in there. If most people don't have a tree cart, most people don't have dollies, but those are two best methods. You can sometimes make a little sling with like a sheet or a really strong towel. It would have to be a strong one, and kind of have two people on the other side of it, or slide it in, that kind of thing. But it's
So what, in your expert opinion, what do you think the weight of a typical bald and burlap
oh my
like
gosh,
Christmas
I mean,
tree
it's
would
hard
be?
to say. Well, it depends on this. We always try to get them not very big. I mean, at least 250 pounds a lot of times.
So, I mean,
don't
but you
think?
just have to be prepared
Yeah.
to be able to move.
I mean, some
something
maybe
that-
a little bit less, a little bit more, but I mean, I'd say a minimum of 150 to, yeah.
So this would be a really good time to think that less is more and go with a smaller tree.
Oh yeah. You don't want to, with a living Christmas tree, you're not going for those, especially with these people with the large roofed houses and they're going for 12 foot, and you're not doing that.
No.
That's like, and then you start moving into $1,200 pounds of root ball, and you're kind of, yeah.
And something else that you have to think about is when you move that tree outside, you really want to go ahead and dig the hole before you even take that tree in the house.
Key tip.
So that when it's time to undecorate and move that tree out, you already have a hole to put it in.
Yeah. So you're not having to dig in the snow like we have now. So hopefully it's like a nice day. And then you have the soil ready to the backfill.
Mm-hmm.
And then ideally, if you have a little tarp or something, you can put that on top of that to help keep that backfill from freezing or being as hard to work with, so that when you do bring the tree out, the backfill you just uncover it, and then your trees you just backfill and they're ready to go like a normal planting.
Plant it, exactly. Yeah. And then if it's not raining or it hasn't rained, you're going to have to go ahead and water that soil in so that you get nice...
get rid of air pockets and
yes,
kind of help. Yeah.
Exactly. So those are some things that you definitely want to consider with Christmas trees. Any other tips?
One other tip you might want to think about with any living tree, be sure and before you bring it in the house, be sure and look through it really well, because people
you don't want to pull the Clark Griswold and bring the squirrels in.
It does happen, not necessarily squirrels, but other critters or other things could be had in there for sure, or just stuff that you don't want, like an old. Even if you may not have a bird in it, but you don't want to bring an old nest in there, things like that. So just you want to check them really good.
Yes, you do.
I guess finally we should talk about removal. You want to dispose of your Christmas trees in a responsible manner. Most municipalities have the curbside pickup for them. And a lot of times they're putting those. Some people even put them in ponds now because for habitat.
Well, they've done that for a long time. I know my grandparents would do that. They'd put it in the farm pond and sink it, and then it gives the fish a place to kind of hide when they spawn, and it more habitat.
Exactly.
So, if you're taking it to a lake or a dock, make sure you check with the dock owners before you do
don't
that.
Just go throw it in somebody's random lake.
Yeah. But it does, you can actually take those living Christmas trees and give them another purpose. The nice thing is when you do take it to either the dump or if, you take it out to the curb for them to pick up. A lot of places will shred those or chip them and use them as mulch.
Exactly. And they get quite a bit of mulch and they'll use them in the parks and stuff like that. It's great. A good program.
Yes. So don't just, throw it to the trash. Make sure that you're giving that, a second purpose.
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of a lot about Christmas trees.
It is. I mean, we talked about the history. We talked about bringing them inside, the ones to choose. I think we've done a pretty good job.
Could talk about decorating because I know you love that, but that's probably not.
Well, one thing you also want to think about with the live trees is when you do decorate them and you're using the lights, it's always best to use the LED lights because they don't get hot and they don't dry the tree out as quickly. You know what lights I love, though? What you grew up with? I know. The old-fashioned bubble lights. Those were the best. Those have made a big comeback. Those are awesome. Those were you talking about magical as a kid. That was my favorite thing to stare at underneath the tree. It was those bubble lights. They were so cool. We didn't have bubble lights. I know, and you laughed at me because I think we might still have my mom's old set somewhere. We do. We do. But there's a lot. We do have quite a few trees in our house. I will admit we have some themed trees, and then we definitely have a tree that we keep all of the kids' homemade ornaments on. So that's, it's nice to be able to look back. I have a few of my homemade ornaments from when I was a kid, and we have a lot of yours as well. So, they do make memories that kind of, you think about Christmas past. Oh, yeah. And so those are neat. They're really neat. Really neat. Definitely so. So I think that is everything that we have on Christmas trees. Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. Please subscribe or follow to get new episode updates. And please help us get the word out about our new podcast by dropping a rating or review. If you have any questions on landscape, gardening, or horticulture, please send them to gwtg@boongardener.com. That's Gardening with the Gardeners. And don't forget, Gardener is with an I. Yes, Gardiner. Thank you for listening to Gardening with the Gardeners. We will see you next time.